Hey, is this thing on? Mic check, 1 2 1 2. All right, we're on podcast number 16. We're rolling. You can't stop it. Yet again, another FTP podcast. We're going to keep you updated. We'll talk a little bit of NFL Hall of Fame. Who doesn't love talking a little bit of football? When you're talking football greats at that. Who doesn't want to do that? I love them. You love them. You know the names. Of course, that's why they're going in the Hall of Fame. Duh. As always, your FTP podcast today is brought to you by Banana. All right, whatever. Let's get the thing rolling.
This is the FTP podcast.
All right, let's start things off with NFL training camps. Everybody's rolling. Things are getting hot. The pads are on. The season is here. It's here. It's right there. Regular season games are going to be on the field before you know it. I hope you're ready. I hope you know where you're going to be watching your games at. And, right now, of course, everybody thinks their team's a Super Bowl contender. I mean, that's part of this time of year. That's part of the beauty of it. Seriously. All right, little news on that front. Nick Foles re-upped with the Rams. Obviously, they traded for him. They must like him. Played pretty well in Philadelphia. I don't see why not. And at the very least for the Rams, it's an upgrade because you want to know why? He'll at least be on the field, unlike Mr. Bradford ever was in St. Louis. Shots fired, just saying. All right, Aldon Smith, I don't think I even need to say too much about him. We all know at this point he is now unemployed. And he is officially our Idiot of the Week. Can I get some Idiot of the Week music for him or something? Because the boy is dumb. My goodness. You got that much talent. That much talent. But that damn much stupidity. It's just shameful. I mean, come on. And I think at some point you got to start looking at this 49ers locker room. You've had multiple young guys just up and retire. You've had a number of off-the-field problems last season, plus they're starting now. Then you had to get rid of Harbaugh and add in a new head coach to the mix. You got to start wondering, is it something in the water in 49ers camp? What's going on in that building? Like, at some point, there's going to be a line drawn in the sand. And see, this is part of the reason why I was one of the people in the camp saying that, Tom Sula is a great coach, but they needed to go outside the building. In order to, when you start having turmoil inside a building, when you start having turmoil inside an organization, the way to nip that in the bud and change that organization and change the expectation is you need to bring someone else in with an outside agenda, with an outside point of view that's not going to tolerate the foolishness. Now, I'm not saying that Tom Sula is going to tolerate off the field antics or different things like that, but he's also been in the building. He's also seen it, which to some extent makes you vulnerable because you may be numb to some of the problems in the building. Which is why sometimes having an outside perspective, an outside point of view is extremely valuable. That's why I was in the camp saying, they might need to bring in a head coach outside the building. Not saying that Tom Sula doesn't deserve the job and can't do an exceptional job there. But when you start seeing some of the things that have gone on in that building, it just starts setting off alarms across the board, and you have to be worried. Just saying. Arian Foster is already on the injury list. He's on the shelf, as always. I think at this point in his career, Arian Foster is a injury waiting to happen. Plain and simple. You know he's going to get hurt. Question is just when. It's not if, it's when. Very talented guy on the field. I think he's one of the best running backs in the past decade. Plain and simple, hands down. But at this point in his career, running backs wear down. He's on that injury list, consistently injured. And this definitely hurts the Texans majorly because, to be honest, he last season was a very valuable part of their offense. Very valuable. They would not have won as many games as they had without him. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have capable backups, and they could bring someone in. They were connected to Pierre Thomas, couldn't come to an agreement on money, but he's definitely a talented running back. He can hold the fort down. But they need Arian Foster if they want to make a push for the playoffs. Plain and simple. If you want to beat the Colts, in that AFC South and get your division, they need Foster healthy and on the field. And you're going to have to find something to do. You got to find some way. I don't know if it's going to be a new training regiment. Something has to be done if he wants to prolong his career, because he's had a string of injuries over the past few years, and he's just becoming one of those guys. And I mean, obviously this happens, it's part of the game. As you get older, injuries become more common, and he has had a position that requires taking a pounding. He has a running style that is violent, and plain and simple, eventually it catches up to you, and it's caught up to him. So something has to be evaluated off the field as a way to help and try and prolong this guy's career, because if you can get a couple more years out of him, you definitely want to, because he understands how to run. And he, plain and simple, if you start listing guys that are better than him in the NFL when they're healthy, there's only a handful. He is in the upper echelon of running backs. Let's just be serious. All right, now we've talked about guys that are on the field now. Let's talk about guys that paved the way for them. The NFL Hall of Fame inductees, Jerome the Bus Bettis. I remember watching this guy play. Just violent. He just let guys fell off of him. He wore you down. By the fourth quarter, it was just over. At that point, if he didn't have 100 yards yet, he was going to get it. Tim Brown back when the Raiders were actually good. I don't know who these guys putting on those uniforms are now, but definitely not Tim Brown. All right, Charles Haley, boy, oh boy, only guy with 5 Super Bowl rings. Junior Seau. I don't think I even need to say anything else. If you're a football fan and you don't know who Junior Seau is, you either better be very young, or you just need to turn in your fan card right now, because this guy was, he was the guy. He was the face. And everyone knew who he was. As long as he was a Charger, he was the man. Plain and simple. Will Shields, great guard, paved the way for some great runners in his career. Mike Tingleoff, Bill Polian, Ron Wolf. I don't think I even need to really... These guys need no introduction. None of them do. They're all just... That's why they're in the Hall of Fame. Plain and simple. Let's listen to some sound from the ceremony as these guys got enshrined and got the gold jackets, baby.
It has been a privilege to play a small role in your careers. We share a lifelong bond that will never be broken. We shared experiences which few ever do and which we will never forget. My honor is your honor. I stand here on your shoulders. I am here because of you, and I am forever grateful.
When I got traded to the Cowboys, the first handshake I received with Jerry Jones, you know, I got off the plane, was 8 cameras looking, I couldn't see nothing, and there's a hand stick off. Hi, I'm Jerry Jones of the Dallas, owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to Dallas.
Nick's a man of little words, but a lot of action. He's so proud to be in this class of 2015. He waited 37 years to get to the Hall of Fame.
To succeed in this game, you have to love it, respect its history, and understand you have a responsibility to make it better. Michael Jordan said that, but the same applies to professional football.
The power of positive people. It's amazing when you have positive people in your life, what can happen. You know, for me growing up, you know, having, you know, my mom and dad and my family be the family that they were to me, always treated me like Timmy and not Tim Brown. Now, I don't want to start talking about what my big sister did to me, because, you know, they may still be able to prosecute her for some of that stuff.
It's an honor being named into the Hall of Fame, you know, to having those 10 letters added to your name. But it takes more than just yourself. It takes a village of people. And with me, it was truly a village, because no one gets to the top by themselves. Someone had to push, prod, and pull me to the next level. Help me walk through the tough steps and be forever grateful.
He is the first Polynesian and Samoan to make it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that is an accomplishment in itself. His athleticism and talent made him extraordinary enough to make it into the Hall, but it is his passion and heart that make him truly legendary and deserving of this tremendous honor. And I would just like to thank my family and everyone else for all their support through this process. Dad, I love you and I miss you. Congratulations, you made it.
I really thought the bus's last stop was in Detroit at Super Bowl 40. But now I know the bus will always and forever run in Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you.
All right. One more thing to mention about an active guy in the NFL. Adrian Peterson said he's already in the Hall of Fame. Now he's just working on being the best of all time. And, that kind of stirred up a little controversy. Obviously, people don't like when active players say that they're Hall of Famers. But I think Adrian Peterson he's probably written himself in as a first ballot Hall of Famer already. He is correct in that. And there's nothing wrong, if you know it, you know it. He's done it. He is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. At this point, he is working to become the best running back of all time. He's just adding to his legacy, and it's the truth. It's just like Peyton Manning. We know Peyton Manning will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. At this point, he's just working to say, I'm the best ever. That's what these guys are doing. The same thing, Tom Brady. There are a number of guys that are on the field right now that, hands down, no arguments to be made, will be first ballot Hall of Famers. They're just working on their drive. They want more Super Bowl rings. They want to help their team. They want to be known as the best to ever play the game. That's what keeps these guys going, because we know that these guys are Hall of Famers. Plain and simple. There's no argument that you can make to say that they're not. Bill Belichick will be a Hall of Fame coach one day. It is plain and simple. At this point, he is trying to become the best coach of all time, trying to add more Super Bowl rings. That is what he is doing. These guys have, if all that was driving them was to make it to the Hall of Fame, there are a number of guys. I can continue to add to this list that would have just hung it up and walked away because they know that they're first ballot. There's no argument that you can make that they're not. There's none. All right, let's go to college football. It's almost here, and we have some programs. Come on. Like I said, this time of year, everyone's expectations are mile high. Everything's championship hopes are a dime a dozen. But which collegiate football program is the best? The best of all time? Obviously, you got a number of schools to pick from with just history behind their programs. You can go with Alabama, of course. You can look at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. These are historic programs. Penn State, USC, Florida, Ohio State. Come on, Michigan, Texas, Nebraska. All of these guys have an argument to be made of why they are the best collegiate program of all time. And I know there's some people out there saying, well, you left one other major player off the list, but I'm getting to it. I am getting to it. There's a reason that I didn't mention one of the major players, and that's because I think that they are the best collegiate program of all time. And we're going to take a quick break, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you who I think is the best collegiate football program of all time.
This is the FTP Podcast.
All right, let's get back to business. My pick for the best program in collegiate history, I'm going to go with the Miami Hurricanes. Now, I know there's a lot of outrage. I know a lot of people are upset. I'm sure Hurricane fans aren't quite that upset. But I have a simple process of why I've said this. If you look at their body of work, I'm going to look at 1987, 1989, 1991, and 2001. Come on. Let's look at these teams have been dominant. Really, that's the only word you can use to describe it. Over a 7-year span, they lost less than one game per season. One game! They lost players and still only lost one game. Had a 29-game winning streak. 29 games. I mean, this is they were dominant for a long time. And I mean, from 83 to 92, they had a 107-14 record. And I know there are a lot of other schools saying, well, we had great records and we did this and we did that. Look at what Alabama's done lately. Look at Oklahoma's history. I mean, I can look at LSU. They won back, there's a lot of schools that deserve some props and a pat on the back. But this is just my humble opinion. They revolutionized the game. They were a dynasty for a very long time. They have been a talented program, but that's not the end-all, be-all for me. The end-all, be-all that really seals the deal is look at the talent that they've produced at the next level. Look at the number of guys that have gone on from that program to be successful in the NFL. Look at the number of Super Bowl teams that have had a University of Miami player on their roster. When you start looking at those numbers, it separates them from the pack. And it starts to prove the amount of talent that this program produces and why it's just indicative of the on-the-field success. You start throwing out names like Ray Lewis, like Ed Reed, and you start just looking at Denny Testaverde. You start looking at these guys, the types of players that they produce. That's why, for me, there's not really a competition. That's why, for me, I pick them. But hey, I'm crazy. What do I know? All right, let's move on to some news and notes. USA Basketball, they announced 34 players are going to participate in a 3-day minicamp in Vegas, baby. Let's look at some of them. Just a couple of the big names. Obviously, MVP, Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler will be there. Dwight Howard. Russell Westbrook. Just a couple of stars. On the other end, who didn't make the cut? Derrick Rose. He ain't never healthy, no way, so why? Andre Iguodala, one name that I'm somewhat upset by because I really like this kid is Damian Lillard. You can look all the way back. I've been picking his name since college. I like him. Why they leave him off, I guess I could understand, but the kid's a beast. Plain and simple. All right, moving along. Ronda Rousey and Floyd Mayweather continue to feud. Let's catch you up on everything.
How about Ronda Rousey? I don't even know who he is.
That's a woman.
That was Dana White. Dana White said Ronda Rousey would kick Floyd Mayweather.
I thought you were talking. I didn't know who that is.
I can't help but really say that I wonder how Floyd feels being beat by a woman for once. Wow. I like to see you pretend to not know who I am now. Somebody asked him, like, oh, how do you think you do in a fight with Ronda Rousey? And he goes, Ronda Rousey? I don't know who he is. I know for damn sure that he knew who I was because he was running against me for Best Fighter that year. I don't let those kind of things slide, but I'm a patient girl. I wanted to respond at the most appropriate time where I thought that I could make the biggest impression that I'm not the kind of chick that you make snarky remarks about.
Has there been any reaction from his camp?
No. I mean, I don't really know what he could say, but I'd be interested, but not surprised if I didn't hear anything at all as well.
The quote from Ronda was, I can't help but really say I wonder how Floyd feels being beat by a woman for once. I'd like to see you pretend to not know who I am now, but you're not doing that. But you mentioned that you know who you're aware of her, you know who she is. But what about that quote?
I just say that, I've yet to see any MMA fighter or other boxer make over $300 million in 36 minutes. When she can do that, then call me.
Well, we'll see how long this back and forth goes on, but I don't see any end in sight. An update to a story we have continued to follow. The University of Illinois chancellor has stepped down, citing quote-unquote external issues as disruptions for achieving academic goals of the university. Keep in mind the university's athletic department is facing allegations of discrimination and abuse. Just another piece to add to the puzzle. Alright, we're running short on time. Let's fit it in. As always, it's our moment in sports history. 1997. Newly inducted Hall of Famer, then Mariners pitcher Randy Johnson strikes out 19, count them, 19 Chicago White Sox. Alright, as always, it's that time. Thanks for listening. Check us out on social media. You can find us on SoundCloud, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Type in From the Press Box. Will pop up. Twitter's FTP_tweets. Everything else is at From the Press Box. We still got some surprises, got some things coming in your way. Just make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitter, follow on Instagram, go like everything. You know what the deal is. Check us out. As always, we'll be back next week. Deuces.